All right, February, the shortest month. The month where I'm going to be teaching 5, 6 classes. I don't even know how many classes for the first time. And a lot of them, like, I have taught before, but it's like I also have office hours. Like, it's busy. This was my first week. I came home real tired after work. Thursday, I work from 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. on campus because I have an evening class. So it's going to be interesting to see if I actually can read 8 books. 8 books has normally been my staple for the last couple years. It's like, I can read 8 books. Like, 2 books a week has been working for me. But the difference is that my commute, I can only listen to audiobooks now, and I've been liking physically reading more lately just because it's just a vibe. So I don't always want to be listening to audiobooks unless it's a specific series. But also, even then, I've just been gravitating towards podcasts and music when I'm tired. Because I know for some people listening to an audiobook is easier than physically reading, which is fair. Like, how you process data can vary. For me, it's about the same amount of work. So if I'm like, tired, it still takes energy for me to like engage with an audiobook. It's the same as it would physically reading. Like, I'm still like processing the words. It still takes some effort, especially like my brain doesn't show me pictures, so I have to do other things, and it just takes some effort. So we'll see what this stack does, but we'll start with the buddy reads, I suppose. First one, this is at least short, and hopefully it's engagingly weird. I've never read anything by this author, though, so I have no idea if the writing style will work for me. And that's Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. We are reading all 4 books in this world. Is it the Southern Reach trilogy? That's what it says up here, but it's not a trilogy no more. It's a quartet. All I know is that there's this Area X. Yep, that's the first words on the back. And it's weird, and people are trying to explore it. What's interesting is, like, I read Exordia in January, and we'll talk about that more in my wrap-up next week. But that was also a scenario where, like, there's a weird thing, and we're going to go explore it, and I think this has similar vibes, but it's much shorter, and I think that's going to be a big win for me. And who knows, if I like his writing style, there's a lot of fun, weird books out by this author, so that's cool. Next up, Mara and I are going to read a Louise Erdrich. I'm very excited, and, like, that's the thing. This feels too weird to do an audiobook, and it's also really hard to get the audiobooks because, everyone reads this series, so all my libraries have holds for, like, centuries. That's why I even have a physical copy, so I can read this if I can't get the ebook. But I love reading Louise Erdrich with my eyeballs. It's my favorite thing. And so, Love Medicine. I don't think this is her debut. I don't know for sure. But it is one of her early works, and she's fairly prolific, like, been writing for a minute. Let's see if I can look. Well, it's listed as first in Books by Louise Erdrich, so maybe this is the debut. When did it come out, though? 1984? Yeah. So, early 80s throwback. And so I think that means this is, like, contemporary for its time, because the first chapter looks like it takes place in 1981. Because, nowadays we get to decide if books set in the 80s and 90s are historical fiction or not. Think about that if you're about my age. Have fun. I don't know what this is about. It's probably a great community. It's probably going to be exploring some stuff. I've just been wanting to read her. I have such a large stack. And I love every book I've read by her. The lowest star I've given one of her books is 4 stars. So hopefully that's a great time. I know her writing style works for me. I know it flows super well. So maybe I can go into the debut knowing it might be a little clunkier because it's the debut, but I think it's going to be a good time. Next up, I don't have a copy of. This might be an audiobook because I think it's probably more adventure sci-fi, which has been working for me on audio. This is the Immortality Thief. Although, the other caveat is I don't have the audiobook for this. It takes forever to get this audiobook. The sequel to this, I believe, is coming out this year, which is quite exciting because I believe this came out in 2022. I don't know much about this. So this is with my UK bookish friends. It's a sci-fi book a lot of them wanted to reread in anticipation for the sequel, and we decided we were going to try and do quarterly buddy reads, and so this is the book. I will say that I probably could punt this to end of February, early March if I really wanted to try and wait for the audiobook, but I would like to get to it. Like, I think it could be fun. I love science fiction. Do I know the tropes that are in this? No, we're in space. And the Immortality Thief, that sounds very, evocative. I have no idea what that means, what tech is involved with that. But like I said, I think genre-wise, it leans, a little adventure science fiction. And maybe I'm wrong, and then you'll find out when I talk about it. And then the last buddy read, probably the one that is the riskiest for me in my current headspace, The Wolf by Leo Carew. Although, we did say we were going to do one a quarter. So if, I burn out, I can continue this into March. This is my buddy read with Ben, Grace, and Stephanie. It's not that long. It looks longer than it is because Orbit likes to still actually use poundage of pages. So it is only like a 450 page book. So that's not horrible in like this fantasy sphere. But the reason I'm nervous is I've already DNF'd a fantasy book this year. We'll talk about it in my wrap up. And that one wasn't even like poorly written. It wasn't like hard to read. I just didn't care. And I'm trying to only read things where I care. So I'm hoping I care about this. My prediction is if I do DNF it, it will be like a DNF for now situation just because of brain. But yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I hope it surprises me. And luckily, I guess, for immersion reading at least, the audiobook for this is always readily available. I just don't know if that's the way I want to go, if I wanted to go completely audiobook if need be. So I don't know. I do like how it flops though. It's got a good flop. So those are the 4 buddy reads. Definitely too many buddy reads. I have made decisions. Now, books for myself. So there's this thing, Freshly Read Books booktube channel. I'll link her down below. She's been doing the spinner wheel challenge for a couple years, and before that, Katie Books did like a 12-book stack thing, and I don't know, it was basically reading 12 books throughout the year from your TBR. And I wanted to participate, so I made a stack. And I didn't really do it in January, but I kind of did it in January, because like the first prompt was read a book you were really excited to read, and then the first book I read was We Used to Live Here. So like kinda, I did it. And then I made an actual stack, because sometimes you can swap things in and out of the stack. It's just like a fun little challenge. And the prompt was read a rainy day book, which everyone got to interpret however they wanted. I think a lot of people were trying to think of like a book you would actually read in an entire sitting on a rainy day, but that's not me. I don't have that energy, that focus. The focus has never existed, even on my best days. But literally, I have said on the record that I have been saving this book for a rainy day, and that is Unraveling by Karen Lord. And I have read like the first 2 pages of this, because I was trying to decide at the end of January, like, what do I want to read? And it is a continuation of Redemption in Indigo. And so I'm excited. Like, I'm excited. At the end of Redemption in Indigo, there are these 2 children. And we are starting with them as teenagers to early adulthood. And I'm curious, where are we going to go with this? Pama's in it. I love Pama. But literally, I have been saving this for a rainy day. If you don't know that I'm obsessed with Karen Lord, she is literally one of the most criminally underrated speculative fiction authors that I love. Like, easily one of my favorite authors, and criminally underrated. She's from Barbados, and just, this is more of her fantasy folklore series, and then she has a science fiction series that I love with my entire heart. And I really like her style. I think she's really funny. I think her world building's really great. And they're always like short, like they're concise, but it doesn't sacrifice anything to be that short. It's just really intentional. And I got to do an interview with her, and she was so lovely. So yeah, that's my book from that prompt. And then the other book I wanted to read for my physical TBR, because I have my, the 20 I wanted to read in 2025 video. And in order to accomplish that, I need to read like 2 books a month-ish, with, some room for me to like fall off a cliff and forget about it, And so I want to read Chain Gang All-Stars. I want to do this. I've had this book since March of last year, so it's almost been on the TBR for a year. And like, I was actually pretty good at reading the books that I purchased throughout the year last year. I was pretty proud of that. Not too many books that I purchased last year are still on the TBR shelf, and that makes me feel good. I have the audiobook for this. I don't know if it would work well as an audiobook. I think it's like a multicast one, I think. I'd have to double check. I know it's going to have a more direct writing style, I think, because one of the main complaints is people don't like the characterization, which usually means that there's just not a lot of detail in terms of inner thoughts. At least that's my experience when I see those comments and then read the same thing. I think this could really work for me. And I know, I always say I'm a character-driven reader, so like, what does that mean? But sometimes like there are always exceptions to the rule. Like if this carries me through and it's not just like all these characters are exactly the same, I should be fine. But we'll see. I think I might like it though. It definitely has that dystopian quality based off what I've read on the back. That's kind of that propulsive, I cannot put this down. So yeah, I just love that. I love the cover. I love how it looks. I really do. So that's another book off my physical TBR. And then my last 2 are probably actually for sure going to be read, even though I don't own them. One is for sure an audiobook I know I can get through, and this is The Next Verkos again. I know. Broken record, isn't she? This is Captain Verpetral's Alliance. I am really getting near the end, guys. I have this, a novella, and 2 more novels. I am, I'm running out of Verkos again. I don't know how to process that. I love listening to these on audiobook. It took me a while to get used to this narrator, but like I'm in it now. I've been doing this for a minute. This is actually, I don't think, going to be about Miles. I could be wrong. Like, I'm sure he'll be like around, but I think this is about his cousin. And I love we all love Ivan. He's silly. I'm very excited for him to get the spotlight and seeing what he does. Yeah, I'm just excited to read it. I like Verkoskin books. They're fun. They're both engaging thematically, but also just like fun, like adventures that I just can like sit in and not like be overwhelmed by world building and density of prose, etc. And then my last one is a surprise to me, but like I'm excited. So at the end of January, the book I ended up picking up is Heartless Hunter, which is a young adult fantasy romance. I don't know. Back in the day, we wouldn't even call it a romantasy. We would just say this is a YA fantasy romance, and it has these tropes, and like, yeah. But I guess nowadays, with the terms of romantasy, maybe you would think that. But like, it feels pretty fun. And I'm excited because I'm liking it, and I mostly miss on YA fantasy specifically the entirety of my being, like even when I was a young adult. I don't know why young adult fantasy has never worked for me as well as young adult science fiction or young adult contemporary. The fantasy has always been a little fine. I'd almost rather read an adult one, and it's usually because they aren't being like rigidly stuck into trends that I just didn't find that interesting. It's probably more the reasoning. But this has been really fun. It's definitely the older end of young adult, at least based off how many clothes have been removed. That sort of thing. Like I wouldn't blindly give this to a 13-year-old I didn't know. I'd have to know the parent and know what their opinions are about their kid being exposed to certain things, you know? Like, it's not that a 13-year-old couldn't handle this. It's more certain parents are going to have opinions. But I've been having a lot of fun. And then I found out it's a duology, I believe. I think my friends also looked and saw it's a duology. I'm feeling more confident than normal in saying that. And the next book comes out in February. So I can actually like finish this duology and like have fun. And it can be like my more like romancy read in February. Yeah, and it also like after I read Onyx Storm, I was really still in like the mood for some like dramatic camp. And this has like also been delivering that, and it's just been fun. I don't know what to say. I think this one's called Rebel Witch. I don't know. I've presumably put up a cover for you to look at. But those are the 8 things that realistically I'm at least going to try and touch and read, decide if I'm going to DNF for now or pause or what have you. And like I guess we'll just see what this month brings. I have no sense of where my brain's going to be at. It's been real tired, but I'm also hoping it's just like, oh, this is like just a muscle you haven't used in a while for this long. You'll build endurance. You know, that's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed. What are you hoping to read this coming month? Are you also going to read Rebel Witch? Because I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about Rebel Witch. I feel like all the recent releases I've been reading in 2025 are not the recent releases that people would expect me to be reading. But I'm vibing with it. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. Ooh. Leave a wolf for the wolf. Because I'm manifesting that this is going to work out. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.